Imagine this. You wake up thousands of years ago with a dry mouth. Your throat feels like you swallowed sand. The sun is just rising. Your tribe is sleeping nearby. The fire is almost out, and you need only one thing: water. But there is a problem. You do not have a cup, no bottle, no mug, no flask, no tap you can walk to in the middle of the night and simply pour yourself some water. To take one sip, you have to stand up, leave the safe place, walk to the river, bend your face down to the water, and hope that nothing hungry is standing nearby at that exact moment. Because in the ancient world, water was not just water. Water was a place where you could get eaten. Everyone came to the river: deer, boars, birds, wolves, big cats, crocodiles, snakes. And humans came there too, because without water, a person dies faster than without food. Today, we pick up a cup and do not even think about it. Pour, drink, put it back. But for an ancient person, every sip could be a small trip to the edge of life and death. And here is a question that only sounds stupid at first. How did humans drink before cups? Did they just fall onto their stomachs and lap water like animals? Did they drink from their hands? Did they carry water in animal skins? Did they use shells, leaves, skulls, eggs, stones, wood? And most importantly, who was the first person to think, what if water is not only something you find, but something you can take with you? Because the moment this happened, humans stopped being completely tied to the river. They could walk farther, hunt longer, live where there was less water, escape danger, and maybe, at some point, a simple water container saved more people than a spear. To understand how humans drank before cups, we need to forget modern life. Today, water obeys us. It sits in a bottle, flows from a tap, waits in a glass, chills in a fridge. We control water. But ancient humans did not control water. They searched for it. They listened for it. They followed it. They remembered where it appeared after rain, where it hid in rocks, where it flowed under trees, where animals had made a path to a stream. For them, water was not an object in the hand. It was a place on the ground. And the first way to drink was the simplest. Walk up to water and bend down. Face straight to the river, stream, or puddle. It sounds wild, but this is how almost all animals drink. And humans could have done it too, especially if their hands were full, if they were exhausted, if there was very little water, if they needed to take a few quick sips and leave. But humans had one strange superpower: hands. Not fangs, not claws, not great speed. Hands. Two hands that can be folded together and turned into a tiny living cup. Water leaks between the fingers. Some of it spills. You have to drink quickly, but it works. And maybe, for a very long time, human hands were the first cup. You walk to a stream, get on your knees, put your hands together, scoop up water, and drink. Then again, and again. Awkward, wet, uncomfortable, but enough to stay alive. A hand does not need to be invented. It does not need to be carried. It is always with you. And that is perfect for an ancient person who is constantly walking, searching, hunting, running, and cannot carry extra things. But hands have one big problem. You cannot carry water far in them. You can take a drink here and now, but if the river is behind you and dry land is ahead, your hands become useless. And this is where the real story begins. Because drinking water is one thing, carrying water is something else entirely. That is no longer just a habit. That is technology. The first container may not have been a cup. It may have been anything in nature that already looked a little like one. A large leaf, a shell, half an eggshell, a piece of bark, a hollow stem, a hollow in a stone, an animal skull, a horn, a dried gourd. If something could hold water for even a few seconds, a human could try drinking from it. And most likely, ancient humans tried everything. Because humans are the kind of creatures that look at a strange object on the ground and think, can I pour water into this? A large leaf can be folded. It can become a temporary funnel. You can lift water to your mouth with it. You can give water to a child. You can wash a wound. But a leaf tears quickly, wilts, and leaks. It is good for a minute, but not for travel. A shell is better. It is hard, light, and already shaped like a small bowl. If people lived near the sea or a river, they could use large shells as spoons, cups, or tiny containers. They did not need to make anything. Nature had already made the shape. But a shell is small, it gives you only a few sips, and if you need to walk far, that is not enough. A piece of bark or wood could be more useful. Wood can be hollowed out. You can make a bowl. You can make a small trough. You can drink from a carved hollow. But wood rarely survives for thousands of years, so it is difficult for archaeologists to prove how often the earliest humans used things like this. And this is an important point. We usually see stone, bone, and clay. But ancient life was not made only of stone. It was made of wood, skin, grass, leaves, fibers, dried fruits, bark, animal stomachs, and things that disappear quickly in the ground. So the first cups may have existed long before we have strong evidence for them. They simply rotted away, disappeared, melted into the soil, and now we see only the shadow of that life. Imagine an ancient person who finds a large empty fruit near a river, hard shell, empty inside. He shakes it, cuts it, cleans it, dries it. And suddenly, he understands. This can carry water. This is no longer just a random object. This is a portable river, a small piece of water you can take with you. Gourds, calabashes, and other hollow fruits in different parts of the world may have become some of the most useful natural containers. They are light, they can be dried, closed, tied, carried on a belt, or in the hands. And here, humans gain an almost magical ability. They can walk away from water and still have water. For us, that sounds normal. For the ancient world, it was a huge step, because if you cannot carry water, you must live near water. And humans are not the only ones living near water. There are insects, diseases, predators, other human groups, danger, competition. But if you can take water with you, the world becomes bigger. You can cross dry land. You can track an animal longer. You can escape enemies. You can search for a new cave. You can survive where you would not have survived before. But natural containers were not the only solution. Ancient hunters had another thing they received after a successful hunt, an animal. And inside an animal there is skin, stomach, bladder, intestines, horns, bones. For a modern person, this is unpleasant to think about. But for an ancient person, an animal was not only meat, it was a store without a sign. Meat was food, bones were tools, tendons were thread, hide was clothing, fat was fire and protection. Horns could become weapons or containers, and some inner parts could be cleaned, dried, and used as bags for water. Yes, one of the ancestors of the bottle may not have been made of clean, pretty glass. It may have been made from part of an animal. That sounds disgusting, but it works. Skin can hold water. A stomach can become a soft container. A bladder can be inflated, dried, and tied. A hide can become a water bag. And now, humans have not a hard cup, but a soft container. It can be taken on a journey. It does not break like clay. It is lighter than stone. It is not as fragile as eggshell. It can hang from the shoulder. And if you are walking across hot land, this is not just an object. This is life swinging at your side. But there is one problem. Water in a container like this could smell, really smell. Imagine drinking not from a clean glass, but from a dried animal skin that yesterday may have been taken from a dead body. The taste could be strange. The smell could be even stranger. But ancient humans were not choosing between tasty and not tasty. They were choosing between drink and die. And if the water smells like goat but saves your life, you drink the goat-smelling water.
If you watch it this far, please give it a like.
Another surprising container was the shell of an ostrich egg. It is almost a ready-made ancient flask. It is hard. It is hollow inside. It is large enough. It can be closed. It can be carried. In South Africa, archaeologists found pieces of ostrich eggshell that were used as water containers tens of thousands of years ago. Some of them even had patterns on them. That means humans were not only carrying water, they were also making marks on the container. This is a powerful detail. We are not looking at a wild person who randomly picked up a shell. We are looking at a human who takes a natural object, turns it into a tool, carries water in it, and maybe even marks who it belongs to. The container becomes a personal object, like a bottle today. Only instead of plastic, it is the shell of a giant egg. Imagine a group of people walking across dry land. Each of them may have their own eggshell filled with water. Someone carries it in a net. Someone plugs the hole with grass, resin, or a small piece of material. someone protects it carefully, because if it breaks, there will be no water. And now the strange question, what did they drink from, becomes the question, how far could they go? A cup is not just a dish. A container is freedom of movement. But even when humans learned to carry water, they still needed to store it. It is one thing to drink from a stream. It is another thing to bring water back to camp. It is a third thing to leave it overnight. And it is something else entirely to have a supply when there is a child, a sick person, or an elder nearby who cannot walk to the river every time. And this is where the container begins to change the life of the whole group. Before, everyone had to go to water themselves or wait for someone to help. Now water could be brought back. You could give it to someone who could not walk. You could give it to the injured. You could pour it over food. You could soften dry plants. You could wash hands. You could put out a small fire. You could survive the night without going to the dangerous river. Water becomes closer. And that means life becomes a little less frightening. But real cups are still far away, because a cup is an object made specifically for drinking. At the beginning, humans most likely used whatever was already nearby. A hand, a leaf, a shell, an eggshell, a horn, a piece of wood, a hollow in stone, animal skin. Only later did humans begin to create containers on purpose, not search for a shape in nature, but make the shape themselves. That was a huge leap. Because when humans understood that soft clay could be shaped, dried, and fired, they gained the ability to create almost any form: a small bowl, a large dish, a pot, a jug, a container for storage, a container for cooking, a container for water. But the first clay vessels were not like our nice modern mugs. They could be rough, heavy, uneven, cracked, and badly shaped. They were not always easy to carry, but they could stand in a camp and hold water or food. And more importantly, they could be used for cooking. If you have a container that can survive fire, you can boil water, cook food, make food softer, and get more value from plants and bones. So, the path to the cup may not have started with the desire to drink tea beautifully. It may have started with the desire to survive. A container did not only help people drink, it helped them cook, store, carry, share. And slowly, humans surrounded themselves with things that could hold life: water in a container, food in a container, seeds in a container, fat in a container, medicine in a container. Things that once had to be eaten or drunk immediately could now be kept for later. And later is one of the most important words in human history. An animal lives in the now. A human begins to live in the later too. He thinks, I will drink this later. I will save this. I will take this with me. I will give this to the child in the morning. A container makes the future visible, but let's return to the simple sip. How exactly did an ancient person drink? If he was standing near a stream, he could drink straight from the water with his mouth. If he wanted to be more careful, he could scoop it up with his hands. If water was sitting in a hollow in a rock, he could bend down and drink from it. If he found a large shell, he could use it like a small scoop. If there was a leaf, he could fold it. If there was a horn, he could drink from it. If there was an eggshell, he could pour water into his mouth through a small hole. If there was a leather bag, he could drink from the opening or pour it into his hand. If there was a wooden container, he could lift it to his mouth like a bowl. And if pottery already existed, then a human could drink almost like we do. Only without glass, without a handle, without a smooth edge, and without thinking it was normal. For him, even a rough clay cup was the result of thousands of years of trial and error. The problem is that we often imagine inventions too beautifully, as if one genius once sat by the fire and said, I will invent the cup. Most likely, it was nothing like that. First, someone drank from their hands. Then, someone picked up a shell. Then someone folded a leaf. Then someone used a horn. Then someone noticed that an empty eggshell could hold water. Then someone realized that skin could be tied. Then someone hollowed out wood. Then someone shaped clay. And thousands of years later, an ordinary person picked up a cup and did not even understand that he was holding a small victory over nature. Because a cup seems simple, but in reality, it is a very strange object. It is an artificial hand that does not leak. It is a tiny portable puddle. It is a river you can place next to you, and if you look at it through the eyes of an ancient human, a cup is almost a miracle. But ancient drinking had another dark side. Water was not always safe. Today, we know that dirty water can carry disease. Ancient humans did not understand this the way we do. They could see that some water made people sick and other water did not. They could notice smell, color, movement, taste. They may have preferred flowing water over still water, but they could not see the tiny enemies inside it. For them, clean water was water that looked clean, but looks could lie. That is why life near water was both salvation and danger. If water stood still, it could be dirty. If animals came to it, it could be contaminated. If people lived nearby, it could become dangerous. But there was no choice. And here, once again, the container helped. If you can collect water from a cleaner place and bring it back to camp, you depend less on the bad puddle nearby. If you can store water, you do not have to walk to the river at night. If you can boil water in a container, you accidentally make it safer, even if you do not understand why. So, a simple container could save people not only from thirst, but also from invisible danger. And a container also changed relationships inside the group. The person who knows where the water is matters. The person who can make a container matters. The person who can carry water matters. The person who stores water matters. In a hot place, a person with a water container becomes a person with power, not because he is stronger, but because he has the thing without which everyone else dies. Imagine an ancient camp. The hunters have returned tired. Children are crying. An old man cannot walk to the stream. The fire is burning, and someone brings water in a skin, an eggshell, or a rough container. At that moment, he is not just bringing liquid, he is bringing calm. The tribe can stay near the fire. The injured person can drink. The child can survive. The night can pass without extra danger. That is why the story of the cup is not the story of dishes. It is the story of how humans tamed the most important thing on earth. First, humans drank where the water was. Then they began taking water with them. Then they began storing it. Then they began heating it. Then they began giving it to others. And at some point, a culture formed around water. People began to drink not only to avoid death, they began to drink together, pass a container around, offer water to a guest, give water to the sick, use drinks in rituals, store not only water, but juice, milk, honey drinks, and herbal brews. A simple container became part of human connection, and that is also important, because a cup is not only, I want to drink. A cup is, I share. When you give someone water, you are saying, without words, you are one of us. I do not want you to die. In the ancient world, that could mean a lot, but before that moment, there was a long path, a path from a face lowered to the river, to hands, to leaves, to shells, to horns, to eggshells, to skin, to wood, to clay, to the cup, and each step was not taken because humans wanted comfort. It was taken because discomfort could kill. If you cannot drink quickly, you are weaker. If you cannot bring water to a child, the child may die. If you cannot take water on a journey, you cannot go far. If you cannot store water, you depend on every stream. So the question, how did humans drink before cups, is actually much deeper than it seems. It is a question about how humans learned not to wait for nature's mercy. An animal walks to water, drinks, leaves, and must return again. A human does something different. He looks at water and thinks, I will take some of it with me. Inside that thought is the beginning of civilization. Because later, humans will make granaries for grain, houses for families, cities for thousands of people, books for memory, but the logic is the same. Take something important and preserve it. Make the world a little less dangerous. Stretch life by at least one more day. And all of it begins with one very simple desire: to drink. Before cups, humans drank however they could, from rivers, from hands, from leaves, from shells, from eggshells, from horns, from skin, from wood, from stone, and then from clay. At first, they simply searched for water. Then they learned to carry it. Then they learned to store it. And one day, an ordinary cup became so normal that we stopped seeing the miracle inside it. But next time you pick up a glass of water, stop for 1 second. For you, it is just a sip. For an ancient human, that sip could have been the result of a huge journey, a journey from a dangerous river to water in the hand, from the palm to the container, from survival to comfort. And maybe this is one of the reasons humans became human. They did not just drink water, they learned to take it from the world and carry it with them.
Now's the time to subscribe to the channel